United Heavy, runway 26, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 26, heavy, but United Heavy.
Welcome to the Aeropedia Podcast. I'm Ashwin.
And I'm Peter. And today we are going to be talking about Airports Council International, also known as ACI, with Adam Zampini. Adam is a communications and marketing professional and self-proclaimed AvGeek. We love them. Based in Montreal. Adam started his journey in air transport nearly 20 years ago and is currently the director of marketing for Airports Council International. Adam is a graduate of Concordia University in communication studies and marketing and completed his postgraduate studies in business at John Molson School of Business. So, Ashwin, can you name an airport that's not a member of ACI?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say one of the ice strips in Antarctica, but maybe Adam knows more.
That sounds good. Let's find out.
Adam, thanks for joining the Aeropedia Podcast. Great to have you here. Just for our listeners, can you give kind of an overview and just explain to us how did you get your start in aviation and what's your background like?
Okay, well, it goes back quite far. I lived under the flight path for most of my life in Montreal. Was always interested in aviation. It was in my immediate surrounding. I also had family that worked in aviation as well. Like one of my grandparents worked for Trans-Canada Airlines before it was Air Canada for about 36 years. And was just naturally drawn to it. And I got my first foray into the sector almost 20 years ago. Believe it or not, I look very young. Almost 20 years ago, it was my first job ever. Actually, I started at the very bottom. I guess you could say we're not the bottom, but I mean, just somewhere else in the ecosystem. I started at an airport snack bar when I was 17 years old. And that was my first foray. And my goal was actually to work for an airline. That was my ultimate goal. And I thought, because of my age, it might be a bit difficult at such a young age. I said, I will do something that will open the door to me. And ever since then, I never left. And ever since then, okay, just to move on, I worked there for a summer or two. And then since then, the career at the airport included 2 ground handlers representing 3 different airlines. And then following that, I got into IATA. I started off as an intern in IATA Consulting. So IATA, in case none your listeners don't know, it's the International Air Transport Association. They represent, just over 300 airlines around the world. My background professionally was actually in marketing and communications. So I got sort of into the airport operation, and it was a bit like, how do I combine my 2 passions? Comms and marketing and aviation. And that's how I got into IATA. I was started in consulting and business development. Following that, I moved to CAE. So I don't know if you know that they are the biggest provider of full flight simulators for pilots. So worked in there, played with the sims, had a grand old time. Like if you ever played Flight Simulator, Microsoft, this is like the real thing, the best possible thing. I had a blast with that. Then I was rehired back by IATA in communications, corporate communications. So touched on so many different areas of the business through that, because we touched all different divisions and we're doing the communications work. And then about 3 years ago, I left IATA and I went to ACI. So representing the airport side, learning a whole different side of the business. And I've been there ever since. Currently, I am director of marketing at Airports Council International.
Yeah, and all of these roles with different companies while staying in Montreal since childhood, right? Just gives you an idea of the power of the Montreal aerospace cluster.
Absolutely. There's a lot of different opportunities here. We're one of the major aerospace clusters of the world. International organizations are based here. And I mean, you probably already know this already, Ashwin, for sure, that Montreal is the civil aviation capital of the world because of all of the organizations that are represented and are really strong aerospace cluster.
So is that original snack bar still at the Montreal airport?
It has been destroyed. It has
Oh,
been destroyed. It's been
no.
revamped, rebranded a few times maybe, but
The Starbucks now.
it still has history. Yeah, it's not as interesting, but yeah, I do pass by it and fondly because that was my first foray, and it's not an easy business sometimes, especially when you're in operation with the hours. I remember when I was working for an American representing an American airline, and my shifts started at 3:30 in the morning, and I was still a student at the time. I was doing part-time at the airport and part-time studies in university, and despite those very challenging hours, I still loved it. So I knew that there was something to it.
Yeah, that shows that you're a true av aficionado when you're willing to put in those hours, still enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
Well, Adam, could you maybe, for our listeners who may not be as familiar with ACI, could you give just a quick overview? What is ACI and what do they do in the industry?
So Airports Council International, we're the trade association of the world's airports. So we represent the airport industry. Like I was talking about before with IATA, they represent airlines, we represent airports. They're different major players in the sector. So we advance their interests, represent them to governments, advocacy, compiling reports and economic data so that we can put forth trends, communicate that to the industry, to governments. Also, in addition, we have a range of commercial products and services that we offer back to the industry and beyond, which includes the data products, publications and guidance, training. That's a big one. So in essence, ACI has a huge membership. We represent about 2,000 airports all over the world. Everything from your small regional airport with under 1 million passengers per year to the Singapore, Changi, and Frankfurt. It's a huge range, and there's diverse interests within that and diverse needs. So it's quite a tall order for the organization because sometimes we have to find the common goals and common needs. And we're represented too in just over 170 countries. So it's really broad range. We do everything from looking into sustainability and sharing best practices, guidance. We have a hugely popular program called the Airport Carbon Accreditation. So it's just encouraging airports to standardize the way that we measure their carbon and their sustainability practices, and putting at different levels. That's it in a nutshell. I mean, we do a lot. We're a relatively small organization. We have offices in several different regions. We're a federation. In Montreal specifically, it's the ACI World office. So it's there's offices in different regions. Like we have Asia Pacific and Middle East. We have North America and DC, Latin America and Caribbean in Panama, etc. But ACI World in Montreal really focuses on global issues. So global advocacy programs, global economics data, global products and programs. So we work with the regions really closely to understand the needs that come from the different regions and come to consensus and adapt to the different needs of the regions. But we're all equal. So ACI World office is equal to the ACI Europe office. We all speak to each other and we work as a federation. And we're the only global trade association representing airports. And that's what you say here above, we're the voice of the world's airports.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, Adam, how does an airport become a member of ACI? Is it like by default, or are there membership dues and they have to elect to be a part of a member of ACI?
Yeah, it's voluntary. They would need to contact through their member office. So it wouldn't be through the world office, it would be through their member office in the region. And yeah, there are membership dues, but with that, they get quite a bit of benefits. They get discounts, access to global events, reductions on training, a whole bunch of different benefits. Also being part of advisory boards and committees, so able to help form new policies and inform also our priorities, in terms of when we're developing policy and guidance and, understanding where the current needs. Those advisory committees are really critical, being the voice of individual airports, like not making assumptions, really hearing it from them themselves, like what are the needs, what do we need to focus on, and when we're developing two guidance, like what is realistic, it can't just be us in an office detached from the industry saying this is what it should be. We need to hear from airports of various sizes and various regions to see, okay, if we develop policy guidance, or if we're also speaking to ICAO. So that's also a huge part of what the World Office does here, is that we are the main liaison to the International Civil Aviation Organization. So just to recap, they are the UN agency charged with aviation. So they represent governments and regulators. So when global policy is made, they're hugely, hugely important and influential. And what ACI World does is we provide industry expertise, and we represent the airport's voice at that forum. So it's really quite critical that we hear from airports, and we understand the priorities, because we're the one voice that goes to that UN agency.
It's really interesting. And that probably explains why the world is located in Montreal then, because of the ICAO presence there.
Exactly. That's what's been the magnet for the rest, a lot of the cluster, and also the international organizations for sure, because that UN agency has been in Montreal since the 40s. Yeah. So it has a long history in Montreal, and because of that, it's sort of the ecosystem grew sort of around it, and it's really attached to it. So much so that in Montreal, probably Ashwin for sure but Peeter, that we have a metro subway stop named after that UN agency, because it's so hugely important to the city.
That's a trivia question in the making.
Yeah, there you go. That's
excellent. So you've mentioned a couple times, Adam, around training. Could you give some examples to us of what type of training is provided, and to who at the airport would you give training to? And
every area of the airport business. It really, everything from airport commercial activities and retail, how to optimize that, to sustainability, how to put a framework to better measure and evaluate environmental performance, to personal leadership and management. We have a hugely popular, and this is something that would be super interesting to your listeners and viewers, that we offer individual training to people who want to be airport management professionals, different levels. So some more in the entry mid to later in their career. We have a program called the IAP, International Airport Professionals, and that's a professional designation that you can attach to your name. It's called the IAP program. We also have AMPAP, which is like the airport professionals program, and a range of other diplomas from even airport finance. It really ranges. So I really encourage you to look at the offering on the site, because there's things for professionals at various different levels, and it can benefit not only your airport career if you want to go in the airport area, but also connected industries, because you'll know some of the things, like if you're an airline, you'll know some key things about airport management and operations, and that can really help you in your airline career, or if you're in an adjacent sort of industry.
Oh, very interesting. Especially that customization of training. I guess it becomes very important as you're growing in your career ladder as well, right?
And on top of it, I don't want to be too sales pitchy, but at the same time, they do offer a range of different options. Like it doesn't online, in person. There's courses being done in various regions, but it's really in person. Obviously helps, because you get to connect with other professionals, maybe in your area or in your industry. And some programs, like I was talking about, the International Airport Professional, AMPAP, it allows you there's like forums that you can connect with other people at your level, and in growing and grow your network and clout as well. It's really quite good.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the questions I had was centered around, prioritization, right? Yeah. And you mentioned there's obviously regional offices, and then there's the ACI central office, ACI World. How do big issues get tackled? Is it a bottom-up approach where they pop up in several regions and then they boil up to the ACI World office? Or sometimes is it vice versa, where the bigger issues like sustainability, you're creating the policies globally and then implementing regionally? Just talk us through that dynamic of it.
It's really both. Majority comes from listening to our airport members, hearing what's going on. Our advisory groups and committees, listening at events to seeing what's on airport CEOs and airport professionals' minds. Also, I mean, in terms of the priorities of the industry and looking even at ICAO, I mean, we settled last year on a global target for sustainability. So we looked at that and say, okay, this is ICAO and also a major issue in the world overall, external world. So we need to also tackle and see how we can help airports and guide them through this and help. The biggest part, I mean, it's really great. You see that the community in action is that the airport community is really good at, they want to share. So, I mean, there's case studies, people trying different things, experimenting, solar at the gate or trying new renewable sources. They really want to share within the industry to better it overall. That's really, really critical, especially at these international organizations, not just exclusive to ACI, but IATA was a similar thing where really sharing best practices, learning from attempts, experimentation. That's where these organizations are really key. And from that, guidance can be developed and best practices shared. And it really is for the betterment of the industry. And it's really great to see members from across different levels of on their professional career, but also with different regions, different airports, just really collaborating for the greater good. It's true. Because they know that it's in everyone's benefit. I mean, aviation, I don't have to tell you that, it's super interconnected. The best way I like to describe it, and this is how our current Director General describes it, is it's not just, players sitting around, it's an ecosystem. And they're so interconnected that if one part of the ecosystem is suffering or there's issues with one, it will inevitably affect the other. So that's why it's in the interest to share those stories and share those lessons learned.
It seems, you mentioned sustainability a couple of times. That's probably one of the more pressing topics that the ACI gets involved with. Are there other trends right now of topics that ACI is focused in on and has priorities on in addition to sustainability? Or
yeah, sustainability is really a dominant one for sure. Lots of work being done. I mean, working again with areas across the industry, an ecosystem, including like aircraft manufacturers and airlines as well. I would say another big one is managing capacity. That will be coming up because there's a lot of growth expected, especially in emerging markets. I mean, still in mature aviation markets, but especially in mature emerging markets and developing nations, and how we can meet that, how we can do better, how we can automate better. And also a big part of it is also about workforce. How can we get the workforce we need overall, system-wide, international, to meet this capacity? Because it's, in 20 years, it's going to virtually double. Again, most of that growth is coming from emerging and developing markets, but that will require a lot of people. Even if you do automate and efficient and AI generated, that will obviously cause efficiencies and increase safety and all that. But we do need people as well, and attracting key area, but also retaining is a really, really key area. Especially we saw after the pandemic. I mean, of course, there was a huge amount of attrition and also just people being laid off, unfortunately, because of the pandemic. We lost a lot of seasoned people as well and the talent, but new talent is coming as well. But also some people have also been a bit turned off from the industry because of they see it as more volatile, perhaps, and other things. I mean, so trying to make it a bit more attractive, showing the benefits of working in this business. Workforce capacity is a big thing. Of course, I mean, the bedrock of it all is safety. I mean, it goes without saying, but we should definitely say it. Safety is always at the top of the list. Those are just a few key priorities that we're working on. Very simplified, but that's the high level stuff because there's lots of projects going on. So many.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the key roles, right, within the airport world. Could you give us, some more color on that, right? I'm sure there's young professionals listening to the podcast right now who are wondering what are these key roles, right? How can I get into some of these airport-based roles as well, and what are the skills required? So just talk us through where are you seeing some gaps in the market, and those gaps will become more prominent over the next decade or two.
So the good thing about aviation and what people don't realize, I mean, and probably you've gone over this with your other guests. I mean, when people say, "Oh, I work in aviation," they say, "Oh, you're a pilot, or you're a flight attendant." Well, there's a whole lot beyond that. You can reinvent yourselves 10 times within the aviation industry because there's so many opportunities from, working in airport retail, from working at the check-in desk, at the airport and the passenger operation, to working in finance, to working in, food and beverage. I mean, it's really, there's such a wide range. We need professionals at every level. But especially we're noticing at the operational level, especially after the pandemic, that a lot of people left and did not return to the more operational roles. And there are some challenges because, the nature of work in general has changed after the pandemic. I mean, people are more wanting remote work, flexible work times, and that's not always very rarely possible in the operation. But, it can work for some people in their lifestyles. And also that comes with other benefits of, having flight passes and being in an international environment, having tremendous growth.
Could you extend the discussion to specific to ACI? If there's any listeners in here that are interested in the types of roles that ACI has, are there obviously in marketing and communications that you're in, but what are the other types of roles that ACI has? Yeah, I mean, the majority of it is advocacy and subject matter experts. So a lot of these, just like ACI and other international organizations, a lot of people are picked from the operation, who have previous experience and are able to help guide these discussions and understand the issues at play. But we're not just that. I mean, we have quite a few subject matter experts, and we need that expertise to be able to develop that guidance and get and assemble, the airport members who get the feedback that we need and develop the standards, policies, and guidance. But also, we do have a really interesting department we have called the Airport Service Quality. So this is a world-renowned program about airport experience, and it is a benchmarking and evaluation tool that allows airports to look at different touch points within their airport and see the satisfaction level. So it's benchmarking, it's surveys, and it is the methodology is really what sets it apart. I know a lot of people know Skytrax. This is a different level. This is like a much more scientific methodological approach to airport service quality and airport experience. It's the difference too is that the surveys are taken at the airport at the day of travel, and it's about 30 different touch points that are evaluated. And you can really, with the tools and resources that they offer, the airport can really track the progress, whether it's going up and down, the trends throughout the years. So again, we have a whole department on that, and people in there are experts on surveys, expert on customer experience, marketing, CX, like I was saying. So that's quite interesting. We also have a bustling economics department because, again, we have to be about data. Everything we have to do is be data driven. So we do have people that are not even coming from the operation that are experts in data analysis and economics. Some of these international organizations, you don't need to necessarily come from the operation. It helps a lot because you can understand. But there's also other areas like, airport experience, where if you have any CX roles, we have people who are in CX roles in marketing and other organizations, from banking to this. We can use that knowledge that's transferred from other industries that can better our industry too. We can learn a lot. I mean, just to give you an idea, just based on that, we had a CX summit every year. It's the biggest or the global event for airport experience, and we have invited Disney over to speak. They were one of our keynote speakers last year, and again,
airport CEOs were all in the audience, and airport experience and customer service people were all in the audience and learning from the best practices of Disney. And in terms of creating experience and a memorable airport experience, customer experience. So we frequently take from other industries. So that's why, I mean, it don't have to necessarily come from the operation. It can help in some roles, but there's a range of other things at these organizations.
Sounds good. Yeah, and it just I mean the airport world touches everybody, right? So yeah, it's really great that you guys are taking those best practices from so many other customer-oriented businesses. It's excellent to see. Adam, I wanted to touch on kind of specifically what you do a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So within the marketing and communications world, just talk to us a little bit about what do you do? How does a typical day look like? What's the team composition, and
Yeah.
what are some of your key priorities?
So I'm in the marketing and communications team. I started off doing both communications and marketing. So again, I was doing helping with media relations, press releases, member communications, web or social media channels, etc. Now I'm moving more into the marketing area because we're continuing to grow our area in terms of offering programs and services to the industry and beyond. We're really trying to hone in on our data. We have really unique data direct from airports, and this can really be leveraged by other areas of aviation industry and adjacent. We're seeing that we want to develop like data products that can help inform governments, that can help inform tourism boards, that can aid even with, let's say, consultancy companies and aerospace engineering companies. They want to know the trends, where the routes are going, what are the airports that are slowly rising, and so that they can also learn from that, and all of the ecosystem around that can also benefit from that. So I'm on a daily basis looking into new product development, launches, how to best market our programs and services to airports, but also to beyond that as well, because as I said, some of these programs can benefit others as well in the ecosystem. So yes, developing marketing campaigns, evaluating success, working with subject matter experts when new products are being thought up and developed as well, because again, there's my background in consulting has sort of helped there, understanding sort of what airports are needed, and if we do business with governments, because a lot of airports are owned by governments, what's involved and how to best market, because again, this is sort of like we're not B2C, we're B2B and B2G, because of the airports are often owned by governments. So also, event marketing is a huge thing. We have our events are growing and in popularity, and we have some flagship events like that's coming up. We have one in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It's our World Annual General Assembly. So basically, it's the largest global gathering of airport leaders. So there's a huge amount of airport CEOs that show up to this. It takes a lot to promote the event, to get exhibitors, sponsors, and to get people interested in it. It's grown a lot. We had a really record-breaking event last year, and also involved in helping the organization, because it's new in this commercialization area. So helping them again establish some of their marketing infrastructure, sales. The CRM, things like that, basic marketing things that work on a day-to-day. But that's it. That's it in a nutshell. I mean,
Wow, very insightful. Yeah, and it's great to see the breadth of everything you're touching, right? Because there's so many departments and there's so many events, right? That you have to have your hands in all of the pies, pretty much, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we're a small team. I mean, I think we only have 3 people doing marketing, but we have a marketing and comms team. So we have someone who's at the CRM, we have a comms team, we have a social person. So in total, the marketing and communications team is about 9 people. We definitely punch our weights because we're responsible for a global audience. But we've seen some really good stuff. I mean, big project we worked on last year was to upgrade our e-commerce platform. bring us into 2024 with a nice, modern, robust online store. Basically, the store shows our whole offering. I mean, in a B2B environment, just to show our publications, our training, data products, etc., in a given area. So you can really see, like, say I'm a safety professional. You go under safety, you can really see ACI's offering that we can do to help. Because it was a bit before, it was a bit fragmented and all over the place. We really wanted to consolidate our offering and make it easy for people to see what we can offer. So yeah, we're a bit on a commercialization journey, but again, our main goal is to be the voice of airports or advocacy mission. But in the meantime, some of these projects, these programs, these products can help fund additional programs to better the industry. Projects, get more studies done. The revenue that comes from that is reinvested really in the industry and programs for the industry.
Nice. Yeah. So let's move on to the next section where we get to know you, Adam, specifically a little bit better. So the first question I had there was name one hard skill and one soft skill that's required to succeed in your role.
Okay. A hard skill. I mean, in my current role, for sure, my hard skills in marketing and communications have been really a key. I mean, because there's so many synergies between the two. Often in companies, I've seen that sometimes marketing and comms don't speak with each other and they don't coordinate. And there's so many synergies, especially today when it's so digital. Yeah, that's been really key. I would say a soft skill that has really been key for me is really in terms of being adaptable and also being very patient. I know that's two, but just being in an international environment, understanding different cultures, different ways of communication. I mean, I learned that at the airport itself, like different cultures express themselves differently, especially when there's delays or things that go wrong. You really have to adapt yourself accordingly and understand how different cultures can be. And you learn a lot about yourself. And you also learn a lot about others and how to relate and how to communicate.
Awesome. What's your fondest aviation memory?
Fondest aviation memory. Okay. I mean, there's a lot. Because it's taken me some very interesting places, far-flung destinations. I just to preface that, I really feel that I like the fact that aviation is really a family. I mean, that you can go anywhere, any airport, you go on the aircraft, you meet the crew, you really feel that you have a bond with them. When you're in the industry, you really feel like, okay, they understand who I am. There's a certain type of character and person that gets in this. They're usually very open and very intellectually and emotionally intelligent people. It gets in your blood. It's hard to get it out. So I really like that. And I remember one of my key memories is, I was working for Swissport at the time. I was a ground handler, and we were representing Swiss Airlines in Montreal. And I step on board the aircraft. I was just actually coming back from Asia on one of standby travel. Always fun doing that standby travel. Almost didn't make it, but I got on the aircraft and I had booked myself in business class, and I knew the crew because the crew, especially Swiss has a smaller fleet, and so we would see the same crews very often. So I'm in my business class seat, and on board they upgrade me to Swiss First. So that was quite a nice experience, of course, because of the Swiss. Attention to detail and the in-flight product is fantastic. They have a lie-flat bed, they have a huge television, multi-course meal. It was fantastic. And that was enough to make it a fantastic memory coming back from a nice trip from Asia. Just about an hour before the flight, when we were about to touch down back in Montreal, one of the purser comes up to me and says, the captain would like to know if you'd be interested in joining him in the jump seat for the landing. And I said, of course. I would definitely do so. So I went in, I strapped myself in between the co-pilot and first officer. And yeah, we landed in Montreal. It was a clear day. We went past the downtown skyline. We saw the Olympic Stadium, which is a huge, landmark in Montreal, and it was just like the perfect way to end a trip. It was so exhilarating. And I even had they gave me the extra headset on. I was listening to the ATC as we were going in. So that was really fantastic. And yeah, again, that family feel, they treated you like you were, even though your ground staff, their crew, they're saying, we're one family. Come on in, like we'll show you, we'll give you a good time. You respect us, and you do well by us, and we'll do well by you. We're all working together here. So that was just a memory that comes to mind. Of course, there's many, but that one comes to mind right now.
Nice. Yeah, that definitely qualifies as a fond memory, I'd say. And Peter and I are definitely jealous. What part of aviation do you feel is misunderstood or least understood by the general public, and what can they do to learn more about it?
I think, I'm just going back to when we had that challenging time during the restart after the pandemic. And, there was delays and lots of operational disruptions. A lot of the passengers were pointing fingers at, airports or airlines, and or just mislabeling and saying, oh, it's this because of this and that. That's where it was we tried to make it an educational moment. And I remember our Director General had an interview on CNN and a few other big ones, and was really trying to put the fact that, the restart came back faster than anyone anticipated. Even on our side, we had a few different scenarios as the restart was happening, the pessimistic, the baseline, and the optimistic. It went beyond even the optimistic scenario. It came back with a vengeance, people wanting to travel, which is fantastic for the industry, but it really challenged the operation because they were not fully staffed. The training, people had come in, it was not prepared for that huge wave coming in. So I feel people don't quite understand that, to get you on your flight and to take off involves 20 plus different entities. It's an amazing cooperation. Just a simple flight, getting your bags on, it's a corporate ground staff, security, border control. It's all connected. And that's, if one part of that is understaffed or having issues, it's a domino. That's what I'm saying. It's an ecosystem. It's all connected. So in certain airports, it was the security staff. They didn't have enough security staff, so they had to really reduce. And everyone was saying, oh, it's the airport's fault. It's this fault. It's this fault. It's an ecosystem. So we all need to work together, and really, if one area is suffering, then the other, it will eventually affect the other. So that's why I find people really, we're continually trying to educate people, and even within the industry, to say, we are an ecosystem. We need to work together more and more because we're so interconnected.
Yeah, well said. And that's kind of been the objective of our podcast as well. And hopefully, by interviewing you and so many others across that ecosystem, we can, educate a bit more and make sure that folks understand the intricacies between all of these different functions, right? Yeah,
and it's really that when I remember, we were trying to put together some key facts for our Director General when he was doing some of these media interviews, and really thinking about that, there's 20 plus entities, companies, organizations that are involved in just getting you off one flight. It's not just the airline, the airport. There's all of the ecosystem around it. So that's a key takeaway, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks a lot for that, Adam. We'll move on to the next section. Peter, what is that next section?
All right, Adam. Welcome to your trivia round.
Oh, this is it. Here we go.
The trivia round. And for all our listeners, Adam made the mistake of saying he's a bit of an AvGeek, so we expect a high score. High score today.
Ooh, pressure. I don't know.
All right, so here we go. All right. For those of the listeners that are listening in on a podcast, we do have our video version through the Aeroscope Aviation YouTube channel, if you'd like to see some of the pictures we used in our trivia. So our first one actually does have some pictures. So Adam, can you identify the airplane type that features this unique main landing light configuration? And for those of you that can't see it, it is 3 light bulbs in a vertical configuration, so up and down, which is somewhat unique. Can you name the airplane type?
Oh, jeez, my gosh. Okay. Not an aircraft expert like this, but is there a hint or something? Can I phone a friend?
It is a large aircraft.
Okay. A large aircraft, so definitely we're thinking probably jumbo jet. I would say either 380, 747.
It is
Okay,
the
there we go.
380.
There
You
we
got
go.
it. It is. You can see in the picture on the right, it's a bit different configuration with the vertical
Oh yeah,
lights there.
it
So,
needs those lights, I guess, because it's so
yeah,
huge.
and pretty far out on the wing spar too. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not right near the
Okay.
thing, right near the body.
Well,
It's further out.
I learned something.
All right, that's the point. That's the point here. All right, number 2. Given your airport background,
Okay.
this European hub airport has 4 runways, but it's unique in that one of the runways is dedicated exclusively for takeoffs. One runway is dedicated exclusively for landing, and the remaining 2 runways are a traditional mixed use of takeoff and landing.
European hub, 4 runways, but it's try right here. I should know this. Do you have a hint on this one? I mean, European hub. I mean, there's a few that come to mind. 4 runways. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is it Central Europe?
Yeah. Can you?
Or Western Europe? Let's start there.
Ich weiß nicht.
What did you say? I didn't catch that.
Ich weiß nicht.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Frankfurt.
Jawohl. Sehr gut. It is Frankfurt Airport. So the two original runways there are mixed use. They added this north-south runway that's actually only used for takeoff in one direction. So this whole pavement is only used for one direction takeoffs, and then the newest runway is to the north, and that runway is only used for landings, but can be used in either direction. So pretty unique use of runway space there. All right, airline logos. Can you name the airline that utilizes this logo?
This looks like LOT, maybe. Is that possible? Or no? Oh no! Wait, maybe. Or is it Ukraine International? I'm trying to think. It looks familiar. I mean, there's a few that have that sort of bird configuration, but it's definitely not Lufthansa. Yes. Lufthansa is much more modern than that. This one looks like LOT, or it could be Ukraine International Airlines.
All right. It was a good guess. It was what I was hoping you would guess, but it's incorrect.
Oh, it's Tarom. Okay.
It's Tarom. But,
oh, wow,
but I already predicted that someone might mistake it for LOT.
Yeah, that's it. It looks like
and
LOT,
that's why I picked it. So, yes.
Okay.
So it's very similar. It's very hard to understand. It's a circle with a bird.
Yeah, there's a few that have the birds.
A different bird. Now, swallow. It must be more of a swallow than a crane. And LOT is a crane. So
I don't think I've ever seen 2 logos that look more similar.
I know. That's it. I was like, one for a LOT.
And both European airlines, and maybe they got a 2-for-1 special from the branding agency. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, another airport. IATA codes. This was near and dear to my heart. So, TLL. Tango Lima Lima.
This one was definitely not in the route network when I was checking in for passengers for Swiss. TLL is in the. Is it in the US?
No, it's a European airport.
TLL. I know so many IATA codes. That one is not jumping to me.
I'm gonna I'll do a plug for first episode of the Aeropedia Podcast. Anyone interested in TLL can listen in. It's in fact Tallinn, Estonia.
Oh, okay. Yes, usually the codes have some relation to the name. I remember when I met, if you're an AvGeek when this happens, I met the team at IATA that did the coding, that comes up with the codes and is the steward for these lists of codes. And I was starstruck. I was like, "You're the one in charge of the 3-letter codes." I was amazed.
Yeah,
And
we'll
just
have to
looking-
have them on. That would be
Oh
great.
yeah. For
All
sure.
right. Next and final question is travel related. So, the United States Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, operates pre-clearance facilities at 15 airports in 6 countries outside the United States. And for listeners, what the pre-clearance facility allows is that if you're on a US bound flight, you can actually clear customs and immigration before you get on the airplane, so that you don't have to once you arrive in the United States. So our question for you, Adam, is can you name 2 of the 6 countries that have US pre-clearance facilities?
Well, one right off the bat, I know we have it in Canada for sure, because Montreal had it.
Okay, that's one.
So Canada's one. I would say, I would estimate probably maybe not UK or Germany. One of those, surely. I can't say for certain, but I know for sure Canada. There's no
All
question.
right. Well, you got 50% credit. Canada is the correct answer.
Okay. What's the other one?
But UK and Germany are not. So the
Okay.
others are Ireland. There's Aruba,
Abu Dhabi.
Bahamas, Bermuda, and Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Interesting.
well,
It is a very
excellent.
convenient feature. I mean, I'm telling you, I wish more countries had that.
Yeah, it's been yes, you guys in Canada have the strongest network there. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, that was your trivia round, Adam. Thank you for participating.
Thank you. Well, I learned something too. I mean, that's one of the great things about this business. Every day I'm learning something. It's such a huge industry with so many different parts that that's what keeps me going. You know, constantly every day. Oh, I had no idea about that, or learning about something different. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Adam, for being on the podcast. I hope this was as fun for you as it was insightful for us. And yeah, we definitely, would love to have you back on sometime in the future to talk about, other aspects of the industry.
No problem. I have no shortage of stories.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us this week. Send us any feedback, trivia ideas, or future topics you may have to our email at aeropedia.podcast@gmail.com. See you on the next leg of our journey.
Bye for now.
Conductor any heavy, contact departure 119.2, good night.
119.2, speed at 290 heavy. Good night.